So now we have supplied one default text property to my custom Java class, which is hello world. Okay, so now let's go back to your class and let's see how we can access this value. Okay, so as I said, there are many implicit objects, okay, that you can utilize, like get properties, get resource resolver. Okay, so there is one method, that is get, okay, by which you can access the default properties which you are providing while initializing your custom Java class. Okay, so using this method you can get access for that property. Okay, so now I am just creating one getter, okay, by which I am returning the upper text value to my Sightly. Okay, so it is recommended in Sightly that whatever you are returning to your Sightly, you should create the getter objects, get methods, and you use those methods value as an property values. Okay, so like upper text, here I am returning get upper text, so in Sightly I will simply uh, utilize that property value with my object name. Okay, so now let's deploy this to my instance. I just deployed it. So now what you will see that this is the default text which I have supplied from my Sightly. Okay, if you open this, you will see that there is no text because I'm not utilizing any CQ template property in my component. So we'll see later on how we can utilize that CQ template and CQ template path. Okay, so now if I have given any convert into text, convert. Okay, so whatever value I will give, it will convert it to the uppercase. Okay, so that is very simple example which I have shown you, that how you can use the custom, how you can create your own Java classes using this WCM use Pozo. So in later videos I will show you that how you can access the component properties in your Java class and then return back to Sightly. Okay, so there are two ways. Either you extend your custom class using WCM use Pozo or WCM use if you are using 6.0 version, or there is another way that you can implement your class using directly with the use API. Okay, so what you need to do is you just need to create your class and implement with use interface. Okay, so use interface, now if you check here the implementation of WCM use Pozo, you will notice that internally WCM use Pozo is using the use API only, is use interface only, where there is a method in it. Okay, and internally it calls the activate method. Okay, if you want to implement that interface directly in your class, you can also do that. Okay, but this is a recommended way, that you should extend WCM use Pozo rather than directly implementing the use interface. Okay, but I will show you that how you can directly implement the use interface. Okay, so let's create one more class, WC hello world use interface.java. I simply implemented it with use. Okay, so you can see here in the import section that it is a part of Sightly only. Okay, use interface. So there is an overridden method in use API, as I said earlier, that init method would be there, and uh, there is a concept of bindings. Okay, so what binding does is it contains various objects like resources, properties, okay, which will bind all the properties, all the resources to your object. Okay, to your class object once you initialize this class hello world use interface. Okay, so the same thing you can perform here, like in my hello world.java, where I extended WCM use Pozo. I was using these kind of stuffs, like this kind of implicit object like get properties dot get resource resolver. Okay, in my this class what I can do is, if I want to access the properties, so there is a method like bindings dot get properties. Okay, so you will have to write the properties here, then you will be having all of the properties in your value map, and then you can do whatever you want to do with the properties of that component. Suppose if you want to access resource, what you need to do is you need to write resource here. Okay, so you are just binding the resource, okay, and assigning it to some resource, okay, like this. So in my case, I am accessing the properties. Okay, so you can do those stuffs with this interface as well. So what I did is I have extracted the properties from my bindings, and I stored in some value map. Okay, value map object, and now I am getting the simple way properties dot get. So this is the way that how I can access the dialog properties in my Java class. Okay, so there is one difference that if I want to provide, so let's see that if I want to use that API use interface, then I just need to, okay, so what I did, I have just included that I created at the same hierarchy use interface. Okay, now there is one difference. If I am giving any default value here, so unlike where I am extending WCM use POSO and I'm using this thing get text in use interface enabled, what I need to do is I need to write this thing bindings.get. Okay, so just keep this thing in your mind while you are extracting some default values if you are planning to implement the use interface directly in your class. Okay, so by this way you can get that default value. Okay, and like here I am getting properties, so here you can get the resources, context objects, and anything you can get uh, with this binding objects. Okay, so the same way I am just returning this getter protect. So let's quickly rebuild your package. So we have discussed about these two options, either extend your class with WCM use or WCM use POSO. Okay, and then you can get access for these methods directly: get resource, get current page, get page manager, for ease to development in your Sitely. Okay, and the second option, you can directly implement the use interface. Okay, and like current page resource request, I have written their properties, so you can place those things with request resource current page or whatever you want to do. Okay, so we know that how we can access the object of our WCM use enabled class. Okay, so let it be. Okay, now it is successful. Now I will just go and refresh my page again. So now I am directly implementing the interface, use interface, instead of extending the WCM use POSO class. And I'm utilizing the binding object or binding class to bind the properties to my value map, and then I am extracting that dialog property from that value map. Okay, so if I go down, then you will see that uppercase value some default text interface. So now what, okay, so I'm using this interface here, and I'm passing interface one. So now here as well the output would be same. Okay, so if you provide here hello world and click OK, so output is same, but there are two different ways which I have shown you, but the recommended way is only WCM use POSO if you are extending your custom Java class. So it's a recommended way to use to extend the class with WCM use POSO. Okay, so the last thing that I want to show you is that if you want to refer OSGI services in your custom Java class, then we will discuss about this in the